Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with Season 9, Episode 16 of our weekly Q&A videos / podcasts. There are ways to access these things on both platforms. You are currently on one, and figure out the other if you want to get there. I'm sure you can. Shouldn't be too much of a challenge. Think about where you normally look for that type of information.
Right.
And it'll be there. And I have an exam tomorrow, so this one's going to be a little brisk.
So I actually appreciate the fact that you're making the time. It was because of exams that we missed last week, and we're trying to make the effort, even when life gets a little busy, not to sort of let this go too often.
It was indirectly because of exams last week, because it was really because I was very tired and I passed out.
Yes.
Like, I just fully fell asleep in, record time, just on a couch. When I was given a moment to rest.
And that's the danger, right? When we do it as tight as we do. I mean, we've had some thoughts over the years about maybe trying to do it ahead of time and then posting it, a few days later. But it never stuck. And I feel like there's a better energy when we're just really doing it flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah, and it's also kind of nice to have this thing to do every week. And I guess we could do it 1 week early, but that would be, I don't know. Whatever. Anyways, then we can get some comments when they're fresh, when they're awesome.
Yeah.
And we've got some really funny comments today.
Right. It's a bit of break from routine. I don't think we have anything much to say about it, except we really appreciate these comments, and I hope you'll appreciate the same way when
we've talked about how we like our fans in the community, and the people, our fans is such a aggrandizing thing. Our audience is much better, yeah. Right. But the people who interact with us and comment, and these are some prime examples. Yeah. So first off, this is the original comment from Blue Whale, which is Bronze Harley Quinn has guns but doesn't use them. Not ever. What's the point? Which is, I think, already pretty good. That's a fun realization. And then Rebel for Ebel uses that as an incredible jumping off point and says she uses them as a pistol whip for the first hit of her tap and swipe combo. She's a doctor, not a combat specialist. Which I think is just a great 1-2 punch. That's a really good setup and spike. And what this reminds me of is that she's a doctor, not a combat specialist. Yeah. That's like a Star Trek thing, right? Like, God damn it, Jim, I'm a doctor, not a whatever.
Oh, so it's playing. I didn't even realize that. I was just thinking that literally, like, Harley Quinn is a psychiatrist.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's a reference that they're making or not. It might be, it might not be. And the thing is, I've never seen Star Trek.
It's a nice allusion to it.
Yeah.
It's no, I love that. That's why I pulled it up. And it's not, we're not even going to wait for it to show up in its order. I didn't put it at the bottom list. It's right up there. Thank you very much. Yeah. Love that comment. Those comments.
Yeah, because that is interesting, right? Because I guess the has guns but doesn't use them. Does a super have any shooting involved? No, it doesn't. It's hammer, right? And a bomb.
The gold Harley Quinn does.
In her super?
Not her super, but in her special one. Like one of the, I think Arkham Harley Quinn does the pop gun.
Yeah.
So it's neat. Yeah. I like that.
That's also the interesting thing is because, when you think about Harley Quinn and her sort of characterization, she's not as, like in the games, even when you think about the way that she uses the big hammer and the bomb pie and stuff. Right. She's doing kind of random stuff just because she can. It's not really, you get the sense with some characters like Batman or whatever, right? That he's like engineered himself to be an efficient, combat machine. Whereas you sort of just get the sense that Harley's just mucking about a little bit.
She's chaos.
Yeah, and she's sort of just doing whatever she wants, which is...
Hold on.
You're popular. You're getting a phone call. But the interesting thing is that Harley, you don't really get that same sort of sense that she's just sort of doing whatever. And I don't know how well that's characterized in... like the comics, or whether we can say that because it's not always it's sometimes a little bit lazy as a thing to just say, oh well, she's just weird and she just doesn't care,
right.
But she's never been particularly, in the games at least, characterized as being somebody who's just in it for the efficiency, who's just in it to get in, do the job and get out. She's just sort of having fun. So I kind of like the idea that she's having guns and she's just wailing on people with them.
Right.
Like whether or not they're loaded at all.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I was watching the new Suicide Squad movie. A lot of fun. Yeah. I enjoyed it a lot, the James Gunn one.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Yeah.
It is. They do some good stuff with Harley Quinn in that movie. Yeah. I think most of the characters get sort of a a cool space to be there. Peacemaker's also really good.
That's why I was watching it in anticipation of being able to watch Peacemaker, and I realized, I actually kind of enjoyed it. You know what I also liked? I don't know what the general consensus was, but the Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of
Harley Quinn or whatever.
Something. There's more where a bunch of
it's a very long one, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that movie too. It was a lot of fun. It was really interesting. Mm-hmm. Way better than any of the previous DC universes, or what they'd attempted to do with the DC universe, like an imitation of Marvel.
Yeah.
Liked it a lot.
I found myself to be a little tired of superhero movies, though, recently. I mean, I did like the Suicide Squad, and it's not even necessarily superhero media, right? Because I love The Boys, although that's not exactly a superhero show, right? It's a show with superheroes in it, but it's not like a piece of superhero media in the same way. And like Invincible, right?
Oh, Invincible was fun.
Was really cool. So it's not like I'm done with superheroes as a concept. And clearly, Injustice, I'm not like, I don't see a superhero and I go, boring. But with the movie specifically, I feel like DC's not doing that much, and Marvel is not doing much that I'm sort of excited or motivated to tune into.
Right.
Right. And the stuff that's being done that I actually quite like tends to be the stuff where it's putting enough of a twist on it, like the way Peacemaker does, right? Where Peacemaker is kind of, it's hard to say. I guess it's a hero, like a superhero show, but it's more of it's like a send-up. It's a hard examination of some of the facets of what being a superhero is.
So is it really that it's not so much a superhero show as the fact that when it's better and it's well done, you're willing to give that part a pass? Like when it focuses more on playing to type and being sort of the cliche kind of superhero story, then it's boring because it's been done before. It's not nearly as interesting as when you maybe, mix a couple of genres or do something a little bit interesting or deconstruct it or look seriously at it and take a trope and sort of put it on its head and do the unexpected.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the sort of real mainstream stuff. But Peacemaker is pretty mainstream, I think. It's pretty popular. Did we already talk about this? The tweet that John Cena did? That was really sort of in poor taste, which was like, if superheroes were real, I would want Peacemaker to be supporting supporting the Ukraine right now or something like that. Which was, everyone was like, this is a weird opportunity to take to plug your show.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
To use that global event.
No,
it's interesting because I find John Cena seems, he's quite a good actor from everything I've seen him in. Surprisingly, right? And he has a sort of largely, I think, wholesome brand, right?
Right.
But he's been in some trouble for his interactions with things related to world events a couple of times. Because there was also the time where because he's fluent in Mandarin.
Oh, really?
I think he is. I think he's either fully fluent or is just a really or can speak some limited Mandarin,
right.
Very well accented and everything, good delivery. Because there's a video of him apologizing to China for acknowledging, what's the country that China doesn't want to acknowledge as a country? Taiwan. For acknowledging Taiwan as a country in a promotional docket or something for one of the Fast and Furious movies.
Right.
So he apologizes in fluent, really good Mandarin, for acknowledging Taiwan as a country, which is a really weird, kind of uncomfortable video, right?
Right.
So yeah, no, it's been. So I don't know. I have this weird sort of dual perception of John Cena.
Yeah.
That I don't exactly know what to do with.
Yeah. Interesting guy.
Anyways, so there we go. Our next comment comes from Smith101, and they say, fun fact, is you look up niche in the dictionary, you'll see a picture of the militarized Batmobile.
Yep.
Which I also just think is...
I think it's totally on point. I mean, it's you get it if you play the game. The fact that it's got all these abilities only for Batman and one ability that's not that great for anybody else, I love that. Gives me excuse. Niche was exactly what we were talking about the other day. So, all right, so for anybody who's listening and hasn't watched a lot of our older videos, some of them, you might know, I have an interest in working out. And specifically, I mean, everybody works out. There's sort of some base exercises a lot of people do. There's not a lot of variation. The one area that I focus on in order to keep things interesting that is kind of niche is hand strength. And so I've got these grippers. And so you're probably used to seeing grippers in the department store. It's got 2 handles. It's got a spring on top of it. It's called a torsion spring gripper.
Wait, I'm sorry, I have to stop you. You're used to seeing grippers in the department store?
Yeah, when you go to the exercise, I guess maybe not.
I don't think I've ever seen a gripper in a department store.
Because they used to sell them all the time. Like, it would be with, like, the medicine ball and skipping rope and the pedometer. Like, there's a section in Walmart or whatever where there's exercise equipment. Yeah. And you can see these grippers. Some of their, like, the fancy ones are adjustable, but they've been around for forever. And so you squeeze them and the spring between them. So they're shaped like a nutcracker a little bit.
Yeah.
The spring in between them deforms a little bit, and that's what gives you resistance. And they're usually pretty easy to do. People can mash them over and over again. It's not a big deal, but there are some companies that make what they call heavy-duty torsion spring grippers. So in the same idea with other exercises where you progressively overload, you've got these grippers that are really hard to do. So instead of doing like hundreds of reps, you might be able to do one or not even be able to finish it where you can't bring the handles to touch. So these grippers typically sell for $20, $25 US. They are made with a really strong steel spring. They've often got more premium metal handles. So the typical one is aluminum because it's cheap. It's it machines really well. They put a bunch of knurling on to keep it sharp so it stays in your hand. And it's got to be strong enough to handle the spring. But then sometimes you get fancier, like you can have them brass, you can have them steel, but basically aluminum is it.
Yeah, I do want to know, just because you've mentioned it, I want to hear from people in the comments. I want you to look up a picture of grippers. Do you think if you look up grippers or torsion spring grippers, which one you need to do?
I don't know.
Look up grippers, have that in your mind, and if you've ever seen them before in your life, I want you to comment whether or not you've seen them before. Okay. Either, yes, I've seen a gripper before in a store, or no. Because I feel like I would be primed to recognize a gripper if I saw it in a store, and I think I've never seen a gripper in a store.
Fair enough.
So your assertion that you've probably seen them before was just so out of left field.
I guess the most likely place you've seen them would be the department store. Even like that's niche of a niche.
Yeah.
So these are things that you typically would need to be looking out for to find to bump into. And so there's a long history of it. One of the sort of more popular ones was started by, so there's a company called Iron Mind that does a lot of strength training equipment, and they make really interesting stuff like, say, the harnesses for pulling trucks in strongman contests. They have that. They make those.
Is Iron Mind the people who make the Captains of Crush?
They are.
Okay.
And originally Captains of Crush, they had a bunch of generations, and I'll get to the point eventually, but there's a guy who used to make them for Iron Mind, each one by hand. His name is Warren Tedding. And at one point when Iron Mind, I think, stopped using him and went sort of their own way and went slightly different direction, because he used to put these handles, spring, there was a hole in each handle to pin the spring to it, and Iron Mind started going to glue. Warren Tedding did his own grippers. They were named different things, but they were pretty uniform in terms of their quality, although the consistency of the difficulty wasn't always there. And he custom make them, and he made these custom ones actually for the grip board, so they could use these as a standard for. So if you were able to close a gripper at a certain level, Iron Man has a certification, but their grippers vary so much that the certification for number 3 doesn't really tell you precisely how well people, or how good their crushing strength is. So Warren Tedding made these for the grip board, and these grippers have been passed around. Literally, you close the same gripper that everybody else does if you meet that same threshold to meet that level of excellence or strength. So anyways, so Warren Tedding passed away a few years ago. So these grippers that he's made have become more valuable and more desirable. And I recently sold a couple, 3 grippers to a collector for what would seem like a ridiculous amount of money, but in my mind was actually a really good deal for him, because it would have cost him a lot more, because I've seen sales for these exact same grippers go for much more.
Wow.
And in the condition that they are, a great deal.
So you're saying you're really cashing in on the gripper.
So this, to me, this is such a niche, because it's like when you've got something that's valuable because it's rare. So you run this problem when you're collecting, right? If you're really into collecting and you see something that's really rare, you might want to get it because you think, oh, it's going to be real valuable, or it is really valuable. And that might be true. But the problem is, even though the value is really high, finding the right buyer is almost impossible, because if that person doesn't come along to appreciate both the rareness, when it's not in the consciousness of people in the field, when it's that niche,
it operates outside of sort of the realm of supply and demand, because the supply is so low, but the demand is also so low that it's really just individual people's access to resources and want. Yeah. Instead of the actual, like, there's no like market forces. It's like a handful of folks.
Right. So there's a lesson I learned from collecting comics, is that if you're really ever interested in making money off some of your comics at some point, instead of just holding on and having a collection, which is totally valid too, is that when you see an opportunity, you need to recognize it, that you happen to be, sort of like when someone comes to our channel, if you happen to be the right person, and this is for you, it's sort of the perfect match, I guess. Yeah. And if it weren't for that, because this is a niche within a niche. So grip strength is a niche, and within that niche, there's a small group of grip strength people who collect some of the artifacts, I guess. Yeah. That have historical interest.
That is really interesting.
Excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like if you have like like an early edition comic book for something that they're going to Marvel movie-ize. Right? Like that's probably your best bet to sell it, is like either right before or like right as that movie comes out, because it's probably not going to stay that, high value. There's probably going to be some people going, "Oh, this is big." And then, as it sort of trails off, unless the movie's incredible and they make 1 million sequels and it grows to like a huge juggernaut. I don't know. I guess maybe the Avengers, right? Maybe after the first Avengers movie, some like Avengers comic books weren't at their like peak in value, potentially.
Well, I'll tell you what was at the peak its value that I missed because I couldn't find it. Was I have Suicide Squad, the one in the late 80s. I have Suicide Squad #1 with Captain Boomerang and Deadshot in it.
Dang.
Can't find it. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in this house.
You just need to wait for like the 5th time they reboot it.
Yeah.
And then catch that wave.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because Marvel's doing all these characters, right? These minor, like Shang-Chi. Yeah. Master of Kung Fu. I mean, Vision would almost be considered a niche character. And then there was the version of Vision when he was all white. Yeah. West Coast Avengers. That pumped up the value too. It's just interesting. Like Scarlet Witch was not really what you consider like A-list or even B-list, really.
Yeah, because the older movies were all like big people, right? When you did like Superman or whatever, and then they're just sort of. I feel like with Marvel movies though, at this point, you can basically just do anything, right? It's more of a formula than it is like, there's like built-in cachet to, whatever superhero. It's just like, you're seeing whatever the most recent Marvel movie is. It's like, who cares, who it's starring, whether or not you know them yet or not, right? Yeah. So anyways, let's get to our first maybe comment that we're not just using to talk about other stuff and laugh at, but some good stuff, some solid work there. Yeah. So our first one comes from Triugol, Triugol. I did my best shot at pronouncing that, but as always, let us know if there's a right way to do it that we're doing wrong. And they say, question, I opened the Aquaman 5 times. He never fell out. Am I such a loser, or is the pack broken?
I'm pretty sure the pack's not broken. Haven't really done any extensive testing, but in terms of the degree of loserness, if the pack's not broken and that actually happened,
I would say unlucky rather than loser. But if we're using your words,
I'd like to be consistent. So there's a half a chance. Basically, half the time you get a gold that's not Aquaman, half the time you get an Aquaman split equally between 4 of them, 4 different ones. So 12.5% each. So in order to open 5 packs and not get, so this is a quick lesson in what is it? Probabilities. So they're independent. They're supposed to be independent. 50%. So the chance of drawing 5 times and not getting it. So if the first time is half the time, 50%. Then in order for the second time to not get it again, that's another 50%. So for both times not to get it, it's 50 of 50 is 0.25. And you do that 5 times. What that reduces you to, the chance of not getting it 5 times in a row, 3%. Just over 3%.
3.125%.
Yeah. So you'd have to be that unlucky. So maybe out of every 30 times that you do it, that's going to happen once. Mm-hmm. Which actually doesn't seem that unlikely, considering how many times people are opening packs and stuff.
Yeah, so you're pretty unlucky, but you're not the most unlucky. It's not like a 1 in a million shot.
Right. And one way, as a bit of advice, if you're ever unsure about stuff like that, just do the refund glitch. You know, and that's sort of related to the next question, which is what we might have time for today, but you disconnect from the internet, you buy stuff. Well, actually, first, you make sure you've got a backup. And it's all explained in the glitch video for the refund glitch. But you back up your save, disconnect from the internet, buy something. If you don't like it, clear your app data, and then re-log into your WBID to bring it back to the state before you bought the packs. And then you know. Mm-hmm. It's pretty easy. You can buy as many packs as you want. And then you'll get a real number, but I'm pretty sure it's not broken.
So there we go. Yeah. So our next comment comes from It's Kinetic, and they say, "Hey BDCKR, I think I've stumbled upon a new glitch, at least for iOS, but I'm not 100% sure how to replicate it. I have 2 accounts I play on, and last night I finished my Phantom Zone on my main account with all elite crystals and received an AO Bane. After completing it, I bought back the Phantom Zone with 50 Nth and selected elite crystal again. I then logged out of that account's WBID and logged into my other account, but decided to get off for the night. When I woke up, I got on Injustice, but had logged back into the first account, the one I had completed Phantom Zone and received AO Bane on, and went into my Phantom Zone, and boom, it said I had all my elite crystals, and immediately opened another, quote, pack for completing Phantom Zone, and I got new 52 Shazam. Uh-oh. Oh. We're being called.
Okay, we're very popular today.
Yeah. Okay, so, another pack. I was shocked at first, so I bought back into Phantom Zone again, selected Elite Crystal, logged out of that account and logged into my second account, logged out and back into my main account, went into Phantom Zone, and again, it said I completed all my crystals, and I received a new 52 Black Adam. I checked my collection, and I did indeed keep my Arkham Origins Bane, new 52 Shazam, and...
Persistent if nothing else.
This is a very professional operation that we're running here. And I did indeed keep my Arkham Origins Bane, new 52 Shazam, and new 52 Black Adam. So I was able to duplicate this once, but I'm not sure about the setup. If you guys are able to try something like this and give feedback, it could be a great glitch for completing multiple rounds of Phantom Zone quickly. And we replied. Do you want to read your reply?
Well, I guess I don't know if I want to read all the replies. I think the point really is that the biggest value, actually, of the Phantom Zone is in Valorium Alloy. That's the only thing that you cannot get anywhere else. It's completely irreplaceable. And what you don't want to do is lose out in your opportunity. And the argument that It's Kinetic made was that if you don't have time to do the Phantom Zones to get the Valorium Alloy, there's still value in getting the other rewards. Mm-hmm. I guess that's a little bit fair. But, yeah. But I think where this relates to the previous question about the Aquaman and me talking about the refund glitch is that people have done the refund glitch in a different way. Instead of clearing the app data, what they do is they toggle back between 2 different accounts, and they only keep in order to keep it, they stay in the account, and in order to get rid of what they don't want and get a refund, they switch the other account. And the biggest danger, independent of whether the approach is actually good, which is the Valorium Alloy issue, is that there's something that we've talked about called account bleeding. Mm-hmm. And it's the problem that happens where if you intentionally switch between accounts too quickly in order to avoid having your progress automatically saved on the WBID server, mm-hmm. you run the risk of having something from one account show up on the other account, and you don't get to pick what is there. Yeah. With the chance that you could corrupt both accounts. I think that's sort of the point I'm trying to make. That the approach to doing this is sort of a dangerous one.
Yeah, so it's possible, but it's a little risky. It's a little not something we necessarily recommend. And for the benefit, it just doesn't seem worth it. And part of the problem, too, is that, these glitches, for what they are, it is helpful, right? And it can save you some time. But what you're looking at is a sort of small fractional reward weighed against, when there's a risk of something happening to your account, the huge amount of time that you put into your account. Right. So it's really hard for us to say when we think that there's any significant risk of something happening, it's really hard for us to endorse a glitch because, one person losing one account could be, dozens or hundreds of hours worth of work, right? Right. In a way that would feel really, really crappy. And for people who can go all the way through Phantom Zone and beat it, right? You probably have enough of a nest egg that would really hurt.
Right.
Yeah. So anyways, we had a bit of a weird episode.
Yeah.
I think I'm in exam brain mode. We were very popular with the calls.
Which I think I have to make a call back very quickly.
It's been a little scattered today, but the show must go on. We've done our best to bring you this content. Yeah. So at the end here, we'd like to say some things to some folks. So I'd like to give a shout out to Eliza, the self-helped Caton. She recently read Arabiolosis by Nathan Masry, the Garfield Eats guy.
What does that even mean?
The Garfield Eats guy?
Arabiolos?
I think it's like, I don't know. It's because he is Arabic.
Oh.
So
is that what the root is?
I think, but I don't know what the eolosis is. Okay. But anyways, so I guess this shout out is brought to you by Arabiolosis, but it's not actually, because I haven't read the book and I can't vouch for its quality.
Right.
And we'd also like to extend a huge thank you, and I guess a little bit of an apology for this week, to our wonderful supporters on Patreon.
That would be Bombo Ben, Consul Peasant, and Edwoon at the top tier last word, Sinemac and Mohammed Albshaiti at your message here tier, Shawn Farrell, Daniel Simonson, Aaron Maule, Michael DeVries, Brandon C., Irvin Ruiz, Eddydoo, and Hoshi 127 at the credited level, and Chris Wolf, Scarlet Danny, Awesome Gamer 241, Pavu RS, Gavin Malott, and Isra E at the gratitude level.
Thank you so much for your support, and we'll see you next time.
Komoda.